Hello everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to episode 2 of In My Opinion, a series where I explore anything that is trending on the internet or in the fitness industry, and we have a little chat about them, boxing. And in my opinion, why you do not play boxing. So let's talk about that. So the first topic I want to talk about is obviously the most trending one at the moment in boxing, or at least it was a week ago. Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson. So obviously you've got Jake Paul, who's had a year's experience training as a professional. He's got one professional bout behind him, even though it was only against Anisom Gibb, another YouTuber. He still has that more experience and edge in comparison to Nate Robinson, who's just had a 3-month training camp in order to prepare for this fight. So Nate Robinson, of course, he's not shy of any form of success. He is obviously a Hall of Famer in basketball itself, and he's obviously an incredible athlete in that respect. But when it comes to boxing, he's had very zilch experience, and it certainly showed in the way he did box itself after suffering a second round knockout. Now, of course, we can talk a lot about the way that there was a lot of grappling involved, or even the way he was charging at him like he was almost a basketball on the court. But the one thing I certainly noticed, and it's something definite to take on board even if at amateur level, is defense. Now, a bit like a religious community of women, Nate Robinson had none. And that is why it's so important for those who are looking to compete in boxing to not just take the sport seriously, not just to train for it, but also study boxing, to study how you actually have to move, and especially how to defend yourself. Because if you don't have your hands up in a boxing match, regardless of the weight of gloves or even if there's a head guard or not, you are going to get hurt if someone is a competent opponent. With all the injuries and dangers that actually happen in boxing, of which I'm going to explore further on in this video, should that fight have been sanctioned? In my personal opinion, it certainly shouldn't have. And especially when you hear allegations and rumours such as ones where Nate Robinson didn't even actually have any form of sparring experience prior to the fight itself. When you look at Jake Paul's team, he's got professional and ex-professional athletes training him up, such as Sugar Shane Mosley and BJ Flores. And if you compare that to Nate Robinson's camp, where there's no professional athletes involved with regards to boxing, even that alone could be a very telling sort of figure as to what the outcome of that fight would be. Moving on, a bit of appreciation for female boxers. Now, female boxing started to come into the limelight a lot more as of recent, and I think that's fantastic because female boxers, in my personal opinion, haven't had much approval up until quite recently. I want to start with one person in particular. It's the lady at the top, Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor has got the WBA, the WBC, the IBF and the WBO lightweight belts, and she recently retained those titles in her last fight against Gutierrez, and that came down obviously to a points decision. She used to be a professional footballer and has gone on to choose to be a boxer itself, and a very, very incredible one at that. As you know, Terry Harper had a fight with Katarina Fanders that ended up in a 9th round TKO. What's making it even more fascinating, she fractured her phalanges, or in other words, her hand, during the 4th round of that fight and had to last another 5 rounds before eventually knocking her opponent down and out. That alone itself deserves a lot of appreciation and approval. Of course, you've got another athlete that caught my eye quite recently as well in the Derek Chisora and Usyk card, which was Ramla Ali. Ramla Ali debuted quite recently in that undercard. She went on to win in unanimous decision. What's actually quite interesting is her backstory, because she happens to be a model outside of boxing, what I think is quite brave. So obviously she's been working on her defence, because if she doesn't, her other occupation could very much be deterred for her experiences in boxing. And that again deserves a high level of approval. Good on you. The last thing I want to talk about, and it really links into the start of this video and the title of this video of why you do not play boxing. Daniel Dubois versus Joyce. That obviously ended in a TKO in the 11th round. And what I think is quite interesting about that is the amount of people who said that he quit. Because of course, in the heat of the moment, the way it looks, it did certainly seem that way. He took a knee after a light jab from Joyce, and all of a sudden he was not willing to get back up from the fight. It was later revealed he broke his orbital bone and had some nerve damage around the eyes. The orbital bone protects the main function of the eye itself. So obviously if he'd have continued fighting on, just even based on pride's sake, there is a high chance that he could have actually been blinded at the end of the fight. I think personally it was a very wise decision of himself, especially at his age and his prospect, to take himself out of the fight as opposed to risking more chance of getting even worse injuries. So in relation to all the points I've made, I think it's incredibly important that if you are going to compete in boxing, you must understand the risks that you're going to be getting yourself into. And also, if you're going to take part in this sport and you do not want to get hurt, even if you're just going in there to be safe, and you want to get into this sport and you want to come out unscathed and you want to be safe, the best thing to do is to study the sport, train hard, train well, and take advice from those who are well-seasoned boxers themselves. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Drop me a like if you found this quite interesting. Drop me a dislike if you didn't like it. Drop me a comment if you feel I can improve on this. And certainly if you're new, drop me a subscription. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Peace.